Hello folks, and welcome to the Ocean State Cuisine. In today's video we're going to be showing you how to make baked fish with a beautiful butter and wine cracker crumb topping. The fish I'm using today is cod, so this is a saltwater fish. And I love the texture and the consistency of cod. It's also very similar to scrod, haddock, and many other fishes. But I've even used the same recipe on even freshwater fish like tilapia and things along that line. It came out wonderful. Now, seeing I am from the Ocean State, which is Rhode Island, which is very known for seafood like this is a very common dish in most great restaurants. Now, when we lived in Rhode Island, we used to have saltwater boats, sports fishing boats, and we did a lot of this kind of fishing offshore. So I've been around all this kind of cuisine my whole life. So let's get started. Now normally these come in, cod's a pretty big fish, so usually it's one big piece or fillet. But today at the market they only had these strips, which is going to work out perfectly fine for today's recipe. So the first thing we're going to need is a big food storage bag like we see here, which we are now going to add our crackers. Now, what we want to use for crackers for this is the Ritz crackers, because they got that buttery flavor to them. But these crackers right here already come with a garlic and an onion flavor. So I don't really need to add a lot of seasonings to today's dish because these crackers already have a lot of that seasoning. So now in the bag, I get a rolling pin and I just go back and forth and I break up the crackers and make crumbs out of them. You could even use a meat hammer, just hit it lightly, or even the palm of your hand. We know it does not take much pressure to break up crackers and turn them into crumbs. Now for the two dishes that I'm making, I would say I'm probably using about maybe just a little less, or maybe right around 2 cups of cracker crumbs. I'd rather use a little more than not have enough. Now we just need a bowl, and we're going to pour the cracker crumbs now into the bowl, and we could see like the size of the crumbs. It doesn't really matter because they're still going to break down as you add some of the liquids to this. Now we got a better view of what the crumbs actually look like. Some markets actually sell cracker crumbs, which is very common in more seafood states. Now we're going to add some butter to this. Now this is softened butter. If your butter is not softened, you can melt it and then pour it in. You can use olive oil if you want, but I like the flavor of butter, especially on seafood and fish. So now we're just going to mix this up well. And like I said in past videos, I don't really measure anything when I do cooking like this. You know, it's just feel and what looks good, you know, to try to get that perfect balance. If you take something like garlic, I'm sure if you add a little too much garlic, you're not really going to notice that big of a difference. Some of your biggest chefs in the world, they do not measure anything. Bobby Flay, he just said it the other day on a program that I was watching. Most of them do not measure anything when they do this kind of cooking. Bacon, yes. So I would say that I probably used a couple of tablespoons of butter. And that would be heapings. Now, as I mentioned earlier, these are seasoned crackers, so they already have garlic and onion on them. But just for the sake of the video, I'm going to use a little bit of garlic powder and some onion powder. Now, if these were not seasoned, I would be using a lot more garlic powder and onion powder. There's a seasoning called Old Bay seasoning. It's one of the oldest seasonings ever made, and it is excellent on fish and seafood. So normally I would add some of that, but I don't have any at this moment. Now back home there's 2 excellent restaurants that make a great stuffing like this for fish and seafood. One uses applesauce. They actually put applesauce in this, and I usually use it if I have applesauce. and it's excellent. So right here I'm just going to add a couple of squirts of this lemon juice. Now, another restaurant I used to eat at back home, the chef used to use blue cheese dressing in mixtures like this, and it's wonderful. It gives it a nice little bite. So we're going to give it a couple of squirts of the blue cheese dressing. And then next, I'm going to add some Parmesan cheese. This is my idea. I put it in all seafood stuffings. It gives it a nice bite. It's really good. I would say about 50 to 60% of the cooking I do has Parmesan cheese in it. Next, I'm going to add some parsley flakes. It gives it a nice light background flavor, and it adds a nice look to the overall dish. So we're just going to blend this now really well. And that's basically it. That's basically all that's involved with making this crumb topping. As far as the overall consistency goes, you want it where it cakes up, where it's not too dry and not too wet. So you want it to be like the consistency of like making a meatball, as we see right here. So with your hands, just squeeze it together, and if it forms a lump like that, you're in good shape. If yours is a little too dry, you could still add more butter to it or some olive oil. Or if you happen to have the applesauce, throw some of that in there. If it's too wet, you could add some fine breadcrumbs, smash up more crackers, or add more grated cheese. Now it's time to add some flavor to the actual fish, because after all, the only seasonings that we use was in the topping. So for this, we're going to use a little bit of butter, maybe about a quarter of a stick, and then some white wine. Use whatever white wine you have on hand. White Zinfandel is one of my favorites when it comes to seafood. Now I got mine on at about medium-high heat. You want it pretty high because now we're going to add the wine to the butter. And we want to cook off some of that alcohol. And again, it's going to continue to cook once we put this whole thing inside the oven. So now we're going to mix this together. And now we're going to add a little bit of garlic powder to this mixture. And then after a couple of more seconds, we're going to pretty much shut it off, and that's pretty much it. Now here we are back at the fish, and we're going to get the mixture that we just made with the wine and butter, and then we're going to just pour it lightly on top over the fish. But now we don't want to add a lot where it's going to be floating in it or anything like that. We just want to do it the way that we see here. And that's pretty much it. Now it's time to add our crumb topping. So with our hands, we're just gonna put a nice layer over the top of the fish. Now, I did forget to mention a few other things that you could add to this topping right here, if you have it, is minced crab meat. Minced fresh crab meat is excellent in a dish like this, or even good bacon bits. If you get a little bit of bacon bits and throw it in that topping right there and mix it all around, it adds a nice flavor to the overall dish. It gives it a smoky flavor. In the world of cooking, you're the boss. Now, in the meantime, you want to preheat your oven. I usually go around 360 on the center rack. And then I cook it for about, I would say, 20 to 25 minutes. I'm going to show you guys in just a few moments what's a good indication to tell when it's cooked. But you can use a meat thermometer, and I believe for fish like this, it's like 150 or above. But you got to be careful when it comes to fish because you don't want to dry it out, or else your fillet of sole will end up turning into Lee sole of boot, if that makes sense. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? Let me tell you something. This is going to be loaded with flavor. Now, if you don't have these separate Pyrex dishes or these ceramic dishes right here, you could use just a regular baking pan. You know, just put them in a baking pan, just spray it with some cooking spray, and you're good to go. Or even a casserole dish. Now there's only one other thing I'm going to add to the top of this that gives us a nice color, and that's paprika. And then a couple of more sprinkles of parsley flakes. It's amazing on how much better food tastes when it looks good. And that's about it. In the oven it goes. Again, I'm cooking mine on 360 Fahrenheit, and I'm going to cook it for about 20 to 25 minutes. And when it's done, it looks like this. Now, does that look good or what? Got a little bit of that butter at the bottom that we could, once we cut into the fish, we could rub it around in that butter sauce, and man, is it good. Now, I did tend to forget to capture this part. I wanted to show you guys. This is how you could tell when the fish is done. So I found this image online, and this is a good example of when fish is fully cooked. So as we could see, the inside of the fish is pure white, and it's not translucent looking or clear looking or has a gel substance to it. And with your fork, you should just be able to pull apart a piece of that fish where it actually flakes apart, and that's how you could tell a perfectly cooked piece of fish. And what I like about cod is that it's a big flake fish. It's a firm fish. It's not soft and mushy like some fish are. Now, another famous recipe that a lot of people like too when it comes to cod and scrod and all that is fish and chips. I'm going to be coming out with that soon, because I worked at a restaurant that they were noted for fish and chips. We had a line out the door till 9:30 at night. So definitely sub up for more future videos, folks. Comment down below because we love to hear from you. Again, this was Ocean State Cuisine. You guys have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.